Okay, everyone. I don't even remember what we last talked about. I don't know if I finished the vlog process fully of us finishing the book because we were just in such a loop. Honestly, me personally, I was very loopy mentally as well because we hadn't slept all night, and the previous night as well, I hadn't slept very well. So my mind was just haggard, and to top it off, everything that happened in this book there was a lot going on. There was a lot going on, good things and bad things about the book and the way it ended, everything. It was a lot to process. So I didn't really finish off with our final thoughts on that day. Like even on that day, we like went up to her room and like for an hour we were just ranting about how we were feeling to decompress. And after that, I needed a few days to just collect myself and collect how I felt about the book, and also to reread some sections of the book, and especially the last 50 pages. I reread all of that properly with good sleep in me to properly process everything, and I have a lot to say. Once I came back home that night, I wrote down a lot of thoughts, and then once I reread the chapters I needed to reread, I've just been collecting so many thoughts, so many opinions, so many theories. There's a lot to say. Okay, so let's get into it. Starting with my thoughts. Okay, let's just what I think of the book so far. I feel like I have very mixed opinions about this book. Okay, I know a little bit about how everyone's feeling about this book. People are not happy with it. A lot of people are giving up on it, and I can see that. Honestly, I feel like the writing in this book is just not it. I feel like the writing was so good in Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and Fourth Wing especially, I feel like we're getting lower and lower with each book, even though I loved Iron Flame as well. But objectively, the quality is declining a little bit, which is really sad because Fourth Wing, it can be corny at times, the plot can be a little unhinged sometimes, and you can question the characters sometimes. But it is entertaining as hell. The characters are lovable as hell. The plot is good. The writing was good. It was decent. There were the things here and there that were cringy, yes. But for the most part, great writing. In Onyx Storm, there were a lot of places where I was like, the writing is not it. And by writing, I'm talking grammatically. The way things are phrased, the syntax of a sentence, the tone, there things were just so off, and some of the dialogue was pretty cringy, which I was like, I didn't want to be like seeing a good romantic scene between Xaden and Violet and then having to cringe because of the way it's written and some of the things that are being said. I was like, it's too TikToky, it's too Wattpaddy in some areas. For the most part, I did enjoy most of the romance, but there were places where it was like taking me out of the story, to be honest. And the plot, I feel like initially, once again, I am a fan of starting off a book and not knowing what's happening, and the characters are discussing something, they're obviously plotting, and we don't know what the plot is until until they actually put it into place. But the thing here was that they kept discussing all these different plots. All of them had plan A and plan B's, but we weren't seeing what they were for the longest time. And then there were points where they were like, okay, no plan A, we go to plan B. But what was plan A to begin with? We don't even know. It was like really fucking with my mind initially. The story was just so slow to pick up. It was really slow to pick up. The second half, once they start visiting the islands, was really interesting for me. I enjoyed that bit thoroughly. But then once we were back, it slowed down again. I feel like she really spent a lot of time on portions that did not need that much time, and the more interesting parts, the parts that are more relevant to the story, we did not get enough time with those, like finding out the dragon lore, finding the dragons, Violet's second signet, character moments, the group moments, her training. Like, this is third book. We finished with 3 books and she still hasn't honed in her lightning signet properly. It's a little ridiculous. So those things were definitely pissing me off. I've always said I enjoy Fourth Wing and Iron Flame so much is because the characters are so real to me. And every time I read those books, I feel like I'm there in the moment with the characters, in the room, present with them. But I was not feeling that thoroughly in this book. There was a lot of one-on-one interaction she had with a lot of people, but the group dynamics, the way they meld together, the whole point of the way they fight their wars is like they're in their squads, right? And her squad was barely present, which really pissed me off. But at the same time, I'm not like completely mad at the book either, because like I said, for me personally, if I'm attached to the characters, I will be a ride or die to the book series, and I really am attached to the characters, to every single character, not just Violet and Xaden, to every single character. So for me, anytime I get to spend with them, I'm gonna take it. It's like that. It's not just the reading the book for me, it's not just plot, it's me getting to spend time with them. So I had a fun time anyway because of that. It's like, it's very weird. Plus, I must say, Her writing was here and there, but her dialogue is always on point. She writes dialogue so well, she writes humor so well. The book was pretty funny, I was chuckling a lot. And the end battle and everything, I did enjoy reading that as well. So I am invested, but at the same time, I know it's not the best thing ever that she could have given us. And I'm disappointed, particularly because she took her time with it. She took in the feedback from Iron Flame and said, I will be better in this book, but she wasn't. But let's talk characters. Xaden, oh my god, he has upped himself as a boyfriend so hard. I didn't think it could get better, but the things he's saying in this book, bro, marry me. The way he professes his love to Violet through his actions and his words, beautiful, honestly. So beautiful. I love reading all of it. Riddick, always loved him. That girl on TikTok who scared me off, thinking that, he could be a traitor. Don't you dare do that to me again. But like, I feel like everything I felt for Riddick has just intensified 10 times more through this book. He brought his A game to the book, honestly, especially that scene where we see him and Violet in the forest and he like tells her, no, we have to draw a line, a boundary, and he's looking after her. It was so nice to see, and the little interaction he had with Xaden afterwards as well, it was so funny. Honestly, I would love to see them as a duo in the next two books at some point. But also, like, as much as I missed Rhiannon and Sawyer, I wish there was more of them and more of their squad with like even Imogen and Quinn and Jessinia. I wish there was more group moments, but I'm glad we got to see some time with just Violet and Riddick, because like I've always said this, I really admire good representation of platonic friendships between a guy and a girl, and it was done so well between the two of them in this book. Love that. Other thoughts I had, okay, everything is really scattered, so my opinions, everything I say is gonna be very scattered as well. But Andarna leaving and then coming back and she was still able to dream walk during that time was really weird for me, because what was the point, what was the point? I'm sure there must be like, oh, I guess like in my head I think Leothin was the one who broke off the connection between them. It wasn't Andarna, so they're not actually fully broken up. But the whole like it felt like such a big deal that she left her and she went with Leothin, but then she comes back a couple of chapters later, just at the right moment, just when she's needed. For what? What was the entire ordeal for? It made no sense. It was so stupid. Other things that pissed me off, like Llewellyn is both a place and a person. I thought I had a grip on all the characters. Honestly, I was confused sometimes because there's too many characters purely because of that. But I was like, okay, Llewellyn is a person. I know who he is, what his job is. And then towards the end of the book, it became a place, and I was like, am I losing my mind? What is going on? He's a place and a person. Okay, I guess. Also, the whole thing with Lynx and the shadow wielding, I'm not for it. I'm not here for it. Because at the beginning of the book, it felt like such a big thing for Xaden and Violet that, she's a lightning wielder, he's a shadow wielder, and the last time they were able to defeat lightning, all that, it felt like such a big thing. But now we have another shadow wielder because he's Xaden's balance and all that bullshit. I don't know how I feel about this, to be honest. Also, the idea that her dad tried to dedicate her to Dun, or Dune, however we say it, because he was trying to fix her, it seems wild to me, because obviously we don't know her dad, but from everything I've heard about him, it feels ridiculous that he would want to fix her. Like, I don't know where that's coming from. Is that the actual truth, or is there, I feel like there's another reason why he tried to do it. There has to be something else, because to fix her, that's really weird. And also, does that mean that, her mom really was sick? But also, coming to that, when she went to the temple and then she saw people with silver hair and she realized that, oh my god, these people are like me, and people and her dad tried to dedicate her to the temple as well. At one point she asked these questions to herself, like, oh my god, who else has silver hair? Do they also have weak bones like me? Do they? Like, does dedicating yourself to a goddess, does joining this cult make you have weak bones as well? Like, is there a reason for the bones, her weakness and her bone structure and all of that as well? Like, it's just a little confusing still. I feel like we're still missing so many pieces, and I would have liked to have them right here in this book instead of waiting for the other books. I feel like yeah, you have to hold back a certain amount of information and let them, stay for other books, but we weren't given enough in this either, and that's not sitting right with me. And again, initially I was also like, he tried to dedicate Violet to the church temple I don't know, to the cult, but not Mira and Brennan. But again, you could say, oh, it was because he was trying to fix her. But why? I don't understand. Was he really trying to fix her? I can't sit well with that. Also, the fact that Theophany is actually dead, like, I don't understand. I feel like we were so close to finding out her background. Like, I feel like good villains, what makes good villains good is not just the fact that they're terrifying and they're powerful, but because they have an incredible backstory that we get to find out. And once you find that out, once you find out who they are and why they're doing what they're doing, it makes the story compelling. But we never got to find out about Theophany, and then she fucking dies like fucking Voldemort. What? Come on. Similarly with Brevin, however you say it, the other Venin guy with Xaden. It's been so many books. Why do we still not have any information on who he is and what he wants? Including the sage in the dreams. Now, who is that sage? Is it Neolin? I don't know. I saw a couple other theories about who it could be. I don't know. As of now, the only answers I can give for who the sage could be, if I have to, is maybe her dad or Neolin. But regardless, that sage has been haunting Violet since forever. And we still don't know who he is. I think my biggest question is all these Venom people, they keep saying, okay, leave her alive, we want her, and they keep trying to recruit her to their side. But why? Why do you need her? Why do you want her? Don't make me sit and theorize about that. Give me at least some information, Not everything can be a question, not everything can be a theory. Some answers have to be given to us. I also wish that, like, since we have found the Irids now in this book, we could have got at least some more time to spend with them or some more information for them. Again, it feels very much the way third books are sometimes, where they're just placeholders between this side and this side of the series, because we'll get all the information in book 4, which honestly we could have been distributed, and we could have got the information in book 3 as well, because book 3 was just setting up for book 4 and 5. Another complaint I have is that the Violet that I love from Fourth Wing was visible in only some places. Like during the islands is when she was thriving. Like the cunningness, the attitude, the thoughtfulness, the sharp mind, the wittiness, all those aspects that make her who she is, we could see during the islands. But apart from that, she was just not it. I don't know what was happening. There was no growth to her. And second, like, every single time something would happen, I was like, why are you not questioning? Why are you not thinking this through? Like, Fourth Wing Violet would have questioned every single thing. She would have picked up on every little detail. And I'm just like, for example, her second signet, it got mentioned so many times in the first half of the book, and we never saw a moment where she was like at least curious, like, okay, what is my second signet? Should I try to figure it out? Should I ask questions about it? Nothing. The girl gave no fucks. I was just not, I couldn't. Her dad's books, what was the point? We learned nothing. All this emphasis on how we need his dad's books, and from the first book itself, from Fourth Wing itself, I thought, oh my god, his research is gonna be like life-changing. We'll find out so much through his research. We finally get our hands on it, and what is it? Nothing. She barely had any training throughout this entire book, which I'm just like, this girl needs training, right? We've seen that for Fourth Wing itself, she needs all the training she can get, but she's not training. She's always physically weaker that she has to make up for, which is fine, but like, she's aware of that. Her signet, she doesn't know how to wield her signet properly. So why aren't you training? Second half of the book, once they come back, they start training and we don't see any of it. We literally went from point 1 to point 10 just like that. Like, at one point she's struggling how to wield, how to even hit her mark, and then suddenly she's splitting her lightning into 10 different bolts. Bro, where? Show us the process. Another thing I wrote down was that one thing that pisses me off is that it feels like there are no rules or boundaries anymore. Yes, you get introduced to some piece of like lore or rules, and then you find out, oh my god, there's a way around it. But when that starts happening to every single fucking thing, then you're just like, anything could happen. Anything could happen. What is the point? What is the boundary? What is the line? Another thing, Riddick and his powers. First of all, incredible. The thing that he did with the Wyvern, he froze the Wyvern from the inside. My god, he is powerful as fuck, dude. And for a second there, I did think, I was like, why is this power this great? Like, is he channeling? Like, that's my mind instantly. Now that I see anyone who's slightly a little bit too powerful, I'm just like, Venom. But like, yeah, I hope that's not true. It won't be, of course. Anyway, but a part of me still keeps wondering, because we had 2 chapters from the point of view of not Violet or Xaden, Imogen and Rhiannon. Okay, and not a lot really happened in Rhiannon's chapter apart from the fact that we see her being a leader and we see the extent of Riddick's power, right? Those are the only two significant things that happened. So I was like, what was the need for this chapter unless you wanted us to see Riddick's powers? Unless you wanted to see how powerful he is? Is there a reason for it? You know, what is the reason? Also, one thing I must say, seeing Tan hurt in this book, we saw him get hurt and we saw him get captured in this book, and that really like put things into perspective for me. Like, we always like Tan is so powerful, he's so incredible, and honestly sometimes you start thinking that, oh my god, this dragon is invincible, but he's really not. And that hit me in this book. I was like, oh my god, as much as we like to think he's invincible, he's not, and that's a little scary. I have literally written examples of like why the grammar is bad in this book, like the header on page 512. So for example, chapter 64, a gift from one servant of doom to another. I must warn you, only those touched by the God should wield their wrath. I will pray to her that she need not use it to avoid acquainting herself with the other who curries her favor. So she's used the words like she and other in a very different way. This sentence can be interpreted in all kinds of ways, whether she's talking about Violet and Dunn, or Violet and someone else who curries her favor, or like her and the other god who curries her favor. Lots of different interpretations of that, and that's my problem. You can't use convoluted grammar as a way to hide Easter eggs and for us to theorize later on what this could mean. You know, that's not how it works. Don't use grammar, use plot. Also, one thing that pissed me off about the Irids is that they literally left her as a baby, as an unhatched baby. Okay, unhatched baby. She hatches around dragons who've grown up thinking of war, and then she becomes like that, and then they get mad that she's not made for peace. What were you expecting? And again, the same question I've had since book 2. She waited to hatch, and then when Violet was 18, she hatched because she heard about Violet. How did she hear about Violet? Was it her dad? Was it someone else? It can't just be the Imperium talking about her. Why would the Imperium be talking about her? Also, Panchik being the traitor, didn't care for that. And the last two things I wrote in the thought section was, why is Jack important? Both as a theory and as a what the fuck, why him? And also, I hate Holden. That's it for my thoughts, okay? Let's come to the questions or the theories. Let's come to the theories, okay? First of all, the number one theory that I kept thinking of, that I mentioned as well during the vlogging portion, is that Violet could be pregnant, and this is not a theory I want. It's just a thought roaming in my head. I know some other people are also mentioning it. I can't handle a pregnancy trope. I don't want a pregnancy trope for her. I don't want a pregnancy trope in this fucking book. But I feel like that's something she could do. That's something she might do. There's so much talk around future heir and stuff like that in this book. I was like... Also, another theory I have is that Sloane is a siphon. I think she could be the cure to like the venom. She's still learning, obviously, but I feel like her siphoning is going to be an answer to a lot of things. The cure to, you know, getting rid of Xaden's venomism, and also just in general also to the plot. She's going to be very, very important. And also when she touched Dane, she said that Dane has too much power. Does he also have a second signet? Are we just going to go around and give everyone second signets or something? I don't know. Why does he have too much power? Unless... Again, it's either channeling or second signet. I don't know what it means, because he doesn't have a wielding power either, right? He doesn't have a power that helps in battle. His kind of power is the one that helps with strategy. Also, do we think Eric and Xaden are working together? Could be a possibility. Also kind of pissed me off when, you know, she kept disregarding Eric in the later half of the book, when he was like, it was so clear that he knew things, that, you know, he could see things, he was telling her, helping her out. And she kept treating him like he's some first year who's fucking around. Like, stop, listen to what he's saying, question what he's saying. That's the thing. Book 1, Violet would have questioned, would have said, okay, wait, why is Eric suddenly suggesting all these things? Let me try to focus on this thing. Theophany said she can't return to the temple because it'll take the very thing that's been keeping her alive or something, her soul going, is going to the temple. I didn't understand what that meant. Does that mean that if she had gone to the temple, gone back to that place, she would have become not Venom again? I will talk about this later as well regarding another theory, but I feel like Dunn is the answer to getting rid of the Venom and, you know, curing Xaden as well. But we'll come to that. I really feel like Dunn is the answer here, and I feel like her father knew something about that. and that is why he tried to dedicate her earlier. The very end, the last page of the book, first of all, Violet's memory being taken away was really pissing me off. I get this because, like, she won't become a liability and stuff like that, but I was like, that was not needed. We could have just known the plan. She can't feel Xaden because obviously Terrence again, I think their bond is like broken. They've broken the mating bond, which is why Xaden and Violet don't have a bond anymore. But I have a feeling we'll still be okay because she can dream walk, which I'm coming to the dream walking thing. But she can dream walk, so I think that's how she'll be like staying in touch with Xaden later on in book 4. But the dream walking thing, I honestly think that dream walking is not her full signet. Like, I feel like she's a full on mind walker because even though the dream walking thing explains a lot that happened in Onyx Storm, it still doesn't explain the things that happened during Iron Flame, when in the throne room and in the final battle, when she was able to see things through his eyes or see his perspective or see into his mind, and he wasn't sleeping, nor was she. So I feel like she's a full-on mind walker. The reason she was able to do that in Iron Flame is because she was desperate in that moment, and because she has a bond with Xaden, so that's easier to do it with him. But I feel like Dreamwalker is not all that there is to her. She's gonna be a full-on mind walker. The other Venom brother, I've seen a lot of people say that it could be Garrick or Bodhi. I also agree it could be Garrick or Bodhi. Bodhi is obvious. We don't explicitly hear him being the one missing at the end of the book, but we don't see him being present there either. So I'm guessing he's missing, and he clearly wanted to do more. He wanted more than what Xaden was like allowing him to have. He didn't want to be the ruler of Terendor, and it makes sense that Xaden, got him and Violet married, so she would be the ruler of Terendor. She would be the Duchess of Terendor because Bodhi is now Venom, so he also can't be the head. And also in Imogen's perspective, at one point she looked over at the battlefield and she saw Bodhi on his hands and his feet, and he's like retching, so he was clearly weak at that moment and in contact with the ground. But it also does line up with Garrick because we know he's actually properly missing. Where did he go? Like, genuinely, where did he go? After he saved Imogen, he said he has to do something more. He needs more. He needs to do better. So he was also desperate. And then he vanished to where? God knows. Where did he go? We don't know. Him and Xaden are like brothers, So that also makes sense. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if like Xaden and Garrick, or Xaden and Bodhi, but it would make sense for Xaden and Garrick as well if they were like, they decide to team up and try to take the Venom down from the inside, that kind of a thing. I also, for a second, I don't know why, thought it could be Dane for a second there. I also for a second had a thought that what if Violet is Venom and we just don't know it because we're seeing everything from her eyes, and we have 12 hours missing of her life. We have no idea what's happened in those 12 hours. What if she is also Venom now? We never know. That was like a split second thought in my head, and I was like, no, never mind, can't be true. But then I saw an Instagram theory about how she could be Venom, and the Venom are the cult of Malik. I use the word cult here because it's just easier for me to explain what's going on in my head. With like even the Dun thing, they're cults for me, alright? That Basgayat is a school for Venom. This was floating around before as well. I think during Iron Flame this theory had come about that Basgayat is like a school for the Venom. But what I found interesting about the theory is that it mentioned that the barracks could be a place for Malik. Like each island was dedicated to a specific god that we went to, but we never visited Malik's island, or it was never even mentioned. But the Barrens could be the place that is for Malik. And also in the map between Poromil and the Barrens, we have the Bay of Malik as well. It could line up. Half of my mind also just says that we know the Barrens exist, we know where it is, and they call the Barrens because that's where the Venom are, and obviously the Barrens don't have any magic left in their ground, right? So why don't we just go settle there, take the fight to them over there? It'll be easier for us to fight them there because they can't channel out of the ground and like take the power out of it and then kill us in the process, right? There's also the theory that Violet's signet is just pure power and lightning is just the way it's coming out right now. Sure, could be that as well. Also, on page 495, chapter 62, okay? The header says, there is no goddess more wrathful than Dun. Entering her temple will slice the soul from any attendant who has shunned her grace. Theophany has, shunned her grace. So I guess that's what she was meant, like it will slice her soul, but women aren't supposed to have souls, right? So like, if we were to like say take Xaden to the temple, what would happen? I don't know, but I feel like the word slice the soul were there for a reason. Once again, it's Dun's temple, so I feel like things keep coming back to this. Oh, also at some point in the book, it was mentioned that they were one of the people, I can't remember who, they were using poison on Venom. They were experimenting with poison on Venom. What about that? I feel like that's gonna be useful later on, because especially given that our main character is so well versed with poison. Hello. And I'm also just curious that the green tipped daggers that the Venom use that are poisonous, and we've seen that with Violet. What is that poison? We still don't know what that poison is. And also, can that poison be used on them? Okay, and keep the poison thing in mind, I will come back to it. Which brings me to the Brennan thing. I still feel like Brennan is fishy. Like, honestly, I like Brennan. He's great as a character. Obviously morally conflicting to read about, which is why I think he's very interesting. If he's like just a good character, I enjoy him as a character. But I still keep thinking there's something so fishy. We still don't know so much about him. The 5 years he was gone, we have no information about it at all. About his death, his disappearance, the rune-shaped mark, his history with Neolin, all of those things are still in the dark. Everyone refuses to talk about Neolin all the time. Like, Taryn keeps refusing to talk about Neolin because he might be alive and might be Venom, who knows. So I still think that even if we didn't see anything happen around those lines in this book, it can still happen later on. And also another reason I think that Brennan could be the bad guy, or could, even if he's not Venom or being controlled by Neolin, he could be in leagues with the Venom, is because, again, the green tipped dagger, the poison that I was talking about, we don't know what it is, right? And even Violet, when in fourth wing, when she got stabbed, she wasn't sure what it was. But you have to know what the poison is to be able to counter it. So Brennan clearly knows what the poison is. That's how he was able to save Violet. How do you know what the poison is if it's only the Venom using that poison? Also, at any point, if you feel like you disagree with my opinions or any of my theories, let me know. I want to have a discussion, because it's also very much possible that I have missed things or misunderstood things. So yeah, let me know what you guys are thinking through all of this. The eggs that they took away at the end, the 6 missing eggs. Do you think this 10 and Sigel's like eggs, kids, I was about to say, yeah, they're kids, right? Are they her eggs? And why were they taken? Is it because, like, obviously the people in the islands want dragons as well, right? Is he gonna do like a negotiation with them for the eggs and stuff like that? Okay, here's a lengthy one. Okay, it starts off as a question. What are the exact technicalities of the marked one's second signet? Okay, like, I feel like this better not be all that we get to understand about the second signet in this book, because their main signet that we know of, their first signet, it comes from the power they wield that through the power that they have through their bond from their dragon, right? So like, they channel through that bond of the dragon for the signet. So the second signet, it came about because they have been marked by the dragon, by Kodak, right, who marked them with his fire, but they're not bonded to him, they just have his mark on him. So are they channeling through the mark somehow? Like, what exactly is their mark? Is it like a rune that they're channeling their signet through it? Or is it something along the lines of, when they, at threshing, once they get their dragon and the dragon marks them, so when Kodak spewed his fire on all of these kids and they got marked because of it, does that mean that they are also in some way linked to Kodak and like are, bonded to him in some way that they maybe don't know about or do know about? And that's how they're channeling the second signet. I need answers. I need a proper understanding of how this works. Taking that further, okay, in Iron Flame we find out that Xaden is an intrinsic, and then he said that no one else knows about it. He is told no one else. But then in this book we find out that everyone, all the marked ones, have a second signet, and that they know about each other's second signet. So technically, wouldn't that mean that like, when at some point they must have discussed that, okay, we're all manifesting second signets because of a mark. So people would have started like questioning that, okay, why does Xaden not have a second signet? Since we are all getting ours, what is his second signet, right? Which also brings me to Bodhi. I'm sure he has a second signet as well. He's not going to tell Violet because I feel like it might be something, again, forbidden as well, something along the lines of being in some kind of intrinsic. And because he said, I don't have a second signet just like Xaden doesn't. Weird choice of words, my man. And also because his signet means that he can counter anyone else's signet. So he would know, he would automatically be able to sense into someone's signet, right? That, okay, this is what the signet is and I can counter that. So he should have been able to sense the fact that, Xaden is an intensic. Which brings me to the next part. If they're supposed to have one signet from their dragon, one from their mark because they're marked ones, and Xaden is bonded to a dragon from his lineage, that should also give him another signet. Shouldn't he have 3 signets? Because if this signet was not because Gale is had bonded to someone from his lineage, then he could have just mentioned that in Iron Flame. This also brings me to the point that the one interview I am considering out of all her interviews, because she has said things in her interviews before and they turned out to be untrue. But one thing that I am considering is in an interview she said that, she mentioned about how it's the dragons who give their names to the riders and the riders share the names with the people, with Kaori and all the leadership. So it's not the dragons speaking to them. They only know the names because we are giving them the names as riders. It made me really wonder why she put that out there, because it makes me think that the marked ones, they haven't given the real names of the dragons to the people around, and that their dragons could all be dragons who had chosen someone in their lineage before. Because we also, at some point it was mentioned that, they knew what they were doing, they chose us. And I feel like maybe the dragons are also building their own kind of army. Hi, this is editing me, and I forgot to mention that one of the reasons why I jumped from theory of Xaden having 3 signets to this is because I also think that the dragons are building their own army because they knew that they would develop second signets, and that either they are all supposed to have 3 signets because they have one from their main bond, one from the mark, and then one from the fact that they're from the lineage, or either the leadership had always known that, if they bond from someone from their own family line, they will develop second signets, but they didn't want that to happen, which is why, either the leadership or the Imperium itself has been hiding this, and that's why they don't allow, like dragons from the lineage to bond with riders and stuff like that, and that they go mad if they bond with someone from the family lineage is just an excuse. Also, coming back to the dream walking thing, we always see only that singular Venom, the sage, in her dreams, right? In Xaden's dreams or whatever. He's always in their dreams, and now we know that the Venom also have signet. Is his signet dream walking? And Violet's second signet being dream walking or mind walking being the balance. I also did Theophany know the cure? Like the entire book, every single time we got her to mention so many times that, she has what she wants, and not a single time was Violet like, oh my god, does she have the cure, because that's what I want. Every time she was like, oh, she can't have what I want. How do you know? You haven't tried to have a conversation with this girl. Oh my god, sit down, have some tea, maybe she'll tell you something you need to know. And you just killed her. And that Quinn, I think I briefly showed that, both of us were crying about her death. And the thing is, I was not very attached to Quinn. I do like her. Like I said, I feel like everyone's important in the squad and they all had a role to play, and I really did like her and I enjoyed her character. But I don't think I wasn't attached enough to cry over her death. But it's the way she writes the deaths, the way she writes them is so beautiful. It really made me emotional. And it sucks that she's gone. Like, I feel like Imogen is such a closed off person, and like we saw from book one itself how close she was to Quinn, and she's lost her person now. It really sucks. Questions I have. I just want to know, even within the Venom, are they all together or not? Because Theophany wanted Violet for some reason we don't know, and she presumably had something Violet needed. Okay, and Bruin wanted Xaden, and then there's the Sage, which honestly, once I post this video, I could be completely stupid and not realize that the Sage and Bruin are the same person. And honestly, sometimes I get confused. I used to think that the Sage and the Bruin are the same people. They're not, right? Are they? Like, clearly all of them have different motives and are trying different things. Like, I don't understand the approach of them. Especially Theophany, she wanted Violet to channel so badly. Like, why do you want her to turn? What is it? And Donna's fire did not burn Theophany, which, like, in Iron Flame she was able to burn the Venom. What happened? Is it because, like, Theophany was a lot stronger, or is it because, like, Ten said that, sometimes a dragon's first fire is stronger? Is it just that? I'm iffy about that. Why didn't her fire burn? There has to be a reason. Also, there was a little piece mentioned where, Xaden's bands of shadows were going towards Theophany, and then it suddenly flew southward. What was that? Like, can she control her shadows somehow, but her signet is, like, um, the storm thunder thing, right? So what, like, there's been a lot of throwaway sentences throughout the book, which I'm like, am I thinking too much? Am I supposed to think on them? How is that happening? Can I get some answers? Another reason I keep asking why Jack is important is because, like, Theophany, she clearly tried to kill him during the battle scene, before the battle scene. What does he know? He knows something. Why is he so important? Also, at one point, Theophany had said he's waiting to Violet, and she was like, who? Bruin or Brevin, whatever. And she was like, no, not like I'm gonna answer to him. So who are you answering to? Who's the he? Malik? I don't know. If the Malik theory is true, that, like, they are all worshippers of Malik or whatever. Also, one more thing. Once Quinn died, unfortunately, and Emotion was holding her, the stone started bleeding out of power. Nothing happened to them. The power was like evaporating all around them, but nothing was happening to them. What was that? What was that scene? This is literally a question in my book. The sage from the dreams is someone else, right? Brevin and Theo and the other sage all want different things, right? Because I was like, am I reading this right? Correct me. Honestly, if you think I'm not gauging this right, let me know. I don't know why I'm so confused either, because I've read high fantasies before and this is not high fantasy at all. So why does this book have me so confused? Also, Panchik said to the Venom that, he betrayed because he has his son. Who's the son? And then also he replied, the Venom replied, oh, I have another son or another spy. So much, that's the thing. So those last 50 pages, so much happened. Every single paragraph, I was like, what? And no one's talking about it. One of the Venom at some point killed a dragon with a dagger. Huh? Also, we're pretty sure that on the Isles she could talk to Andana and to Ten because of Andana's power linking her, right? Like, because I assume the Irids were able to speak to all of them, even though they were not bonded to them. That the dragons, that because Andana's also an Irid, she can also speak to whoever she wants and get that connection where, whoever wants to speak to each other can speak to each other, and that's how that was happening, I'm assuming. Also, at one point on the Isles, Xaden was able to hear her thoughts, and I get that, that could be like, we saw that happening through the rest of the book as well, because his, Venom side was increasing, he was getting more and more powerful. So even if he is not trying to, be an intrinsic, he was able to still understand her thoughts, especially the words. Like, he reads intentions, right? He was able to read her words. But that was happening on the islands as well. We still don't have an answer about why her mom, Violet's mom, was looking for the cure. All those years ago, why was she looking for the cure? What happened? Okay, I think I've said everything I needed to say. That was what the book was. Lots of questions, a little bit of confusion, not the best writing, but I still had a good time because the romance was great. Love them always. The characters were great, the humor was good. I feel like that's a problem about me. Like, even if book 4 and 5 don't end up being good books, I will still read them and I will still like them because I like the characters and I want to spend time with them. But this is everything that I think of so far in terms of, like, my opinions about the book and all my theories and all the questions I have. Yeah, correct me in the comments if you need to, or share your theories. Okay, let's just dive in. Let's talk about the book. I feel like I still feel the need to, like, just keep yapping about it, because I have the need to, like, get it off my chest and talk about, like, everything that went down. So much happened, but at the same time not much happened. It's confusing. So yeah, let me know what you thought of the book, your theories, your comments, everything. Let's talk about it in the comments. And thank you so much for watching this really lengthy video. But I'll see you guys soon. I'll see you guys in the next video. Like, share, subscribe and comment, and I'll see you guys next time.